Thunder shakes the walls of Blackrock Maximum Security Prison as 12 of America's most dangerous inmates taste freedom for the first time in decades. Through sheets of rain, they spot a solitary farmhouse, a perfect target to raid for supplies and hostages. What they don't know is that they've just made the deadliest mistake of their lives. Marcus Steele isn't just another farmer trying to survive in rural America. For 23 years, he was the most feared Delta Force commander in history, with over 300 successful missions and a reputation that made hardened terrorists tremble. His call sign was Reaper, because once he had a target, death was the only outcome. This isn't just another prison break story. This is about how 12 escaped convicts learned that hell isn't a place below ground. It's a farm owned by a man who spent his life mastering the art of hunting human prey. In the next 12 hours, they'll discover why Marcus Steele's enemies called him the Angel of Death, and why some ghosts from the past are better left undisturbed. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Dawn breaks over Marcus Steele's farm, as it has every morning for the past 5 years. The former Delta Force commander moves with fluid precision through his morning routine, each action measured and deliberate despite the arthritis in his left knee, a souvenir from a mission in Kashmir that officially never happened. Zeus, his Belgian Malinois, pads silently beside him as they check the property's perimeter. The dog's military training shows in every movement, just as lethal and vigilant as his master. Together, they've created a sanctuary here, though most would see only a modest farmhouse with weathered barn and surrounding fields. But look closer, and the signs are there. The seemingly random placement of security cameras disguised as wildlife observation posts. The reinforced windows that appear normal but could stop a .50 caliber round. The barn doors perfectly balanced to open silently. Despite their weight, everything serves dual purposes: farming equipment by day, tactical advantages if needed. Marcus pauses at the eastern fence line, his calloused hands resting on the wooden post as he surveys his land. The morning mist clings to the ground, reminding him of another morning years ago when similar fog had concealed his team's approach during a hostage rescue in Serbia. Zeus's ears prick forward, breaking his reverie. "Easy, boy," Marcus murmurs, his voice gravelly from years of barking orders in combat zones. The dog relaxes, but Marcus notes the behavior. Zeus was trained to detect threats long before human senses could perceive them. The morning's peace feels suddenly fragile. Inside the farmhouse, Marcus begins his breakfast routine. Every movement is economical, habits forged through decades of military discipline. The kitchen layout might seem random to visitors, but each knife is positioned for quick access. Every surface offers clear sightlines to approaches, and emergency equipment lies concealed behind innocent-looking cabinet panels. The radio drones. Quietly, local weather, traffic, community announcements. Marcus listens with half an ear until a particular report catches his attention. Breaking news: massive power failure at Blackrock Maximum Security Prison following lightning strike. Officials assure public that all systems and prisoners are secure. Marcus's hand pauses halfway to his coffee cup. Zeus lifts his head from his position by the door, sensing his master's sudden tension. They both know what a power failure means at a prison during a storm. The perfect cover for an escape attempt. The morning suddenly feels colder as memories surface. Memories of other storms, other missions. The weight of a rifle in his hands, and the knowledge that lives depended on his decisions. Marcus pushes the thoughts away. That life is behind him now. He chose this quiet existence for a reason. Still, old habits die hard. He finds himself mentally cataloguing his defense preparations, checking sightlines through windows, calculating distances to cover. The farmhouse sits exposed on a slight rise. tactically advantageous for observation, but also visible from the nearby road. Zeus whines softly by the door, and Marcus realizes he's been standing motionless, lost in thought. "Just ghosts, boy," he says, but moves to check his security feeds anyway. The screens show nothing but rain-swept fields and empty roads. Yet something feels off, like the pressure drop before a storm. The local sheriff, Bill Cooper, had laughed when Marcus first installed his security system. "Bit much for a farm, isn't it?" he'd said. But there had been understanding in his eyes. Cooper was a Desert Storm veteran. He knew that some men carry their wars with them, that peace isn't just the absence of conflict, but the readiness for it. Marcus finishes his breakfast methodically, but his senses remain heightened. Zeus stays alert by the door, occasionally lifting his head to sniff the air. The rain intensifies outside, drumming on the roof like distant gunfire. A perfect morning to stay inside, tend to paperwork, maybe work on his memoirs, the ones his old team keeps pestering him to write. But first, he'll do another perimeter check, just routine, he tells himself, just being thorough. Yet, as he straps on his weatherproof jacket, he can't shake the feeling that this storm is bringing more than just rain. The rain hammers against the windows as Marcus descends into his basement, each step triggering memories he'd rather forget. Behind a false wall panel, hidden by years of deliberate neglect, lies a room that would make military contractors envious. This is where Marcus keeps his ghosts. Weapon racks line one wall, each firearm maintained with obsessive precision despite years of disuse. Tactical gear, communications equipment, and enough ammunition to wage a small war, all carefully preserved. Not out of paranoia, he tells himself, but preparedness. The same philosophy that kept him and his team alive through 2 decades of impossible missions. His fingers trace the worn metal of an M4 carbine, muscle memory instantly recalling its weight, balance, the familiar press of its stock against his shoulder. The weapon brings back Kandahar, 2009, a hostage rescue gone sideways when intelligence proved fatally wrong. 3 of his men wounded, surrounded by hostile forces, yet somehow they'd all made it out alive. Zeus settles at his feet. As Marcus sinks into his planning chair, the worn leather conforming to his frame. On the desk, a photo frame holds the only picture he keeps of his old team. 8 men, faces grimy with combat dirt, standing before a helicopter in some classified location. Only 6 still living now. The price of being the best at what they did. Operation Blackout, he mutters, remembering the mission that changed everything. Syria 2015. A high-value target who turned out to be more than intelligence suggested. Marcus's team had gone in precise and clean, as always. But their target, Viktor Rudenko, had been ready. A former Spetsnaz commander turned international arms dealer, Rudenko had transformed his compound into a killing ground. The firefight lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 2 of Marcus's team were dead, and Rudenko had escaped. The official report called it a successful mission, the compound destroyed, the arms cache eliminated. But Marcus knew the truth. He'd let personal vendetta cloud his judgment, push too hard, too fast. His men paid the price. A crack of thunder jolts him back to the present. Zeus's ears are pricked, his posture alert. The dog's training is showing. Something's wrong. Marcus moves to his security monitors, scanning feeds from cameras concealed around his property. The rain makes visibility poor, but years of experience have taught him to spot anomalies. There, a shadow where none should be. Movement too deliberate to be wildlife. Someone's testing his perimeter. Marcus switches to thermal imaging, a system he'd installed after too many sleepless nights jumping at shadows. The heat signatures are clear now, human figures moving with purpose toward his farm. His phone buzzes, Sheriff Cooper. "Marcus, you hearing the news? Prison break at Blackrock. Numbers still unclear, but at least a dozen inmates unaccounted for." Storm's playing hell with the search efforts. Marcus's response is measured, controlled. Thanks for the heads up, Bill. I'll keep an eye out. But his mind is already racing through scenarios, calculating angles, planning defensive positions. The farm's layout, carefully maintained for agricultural efficiency, now reveals its secondary purpose: a layered defensive position with clear fields of fire and multiple fallback points. Zeus growls softly, picking up on his master's tension. Marcus checks his security feeds again. The intruders are being cautious, using the rain and limited visibility to their advantage, but they don't realize they're being watched. Don't understand that every approach to the farm has been mapped, measured and prepared for precisely this type of situation. A bitter smile crosses Marcus's face as he begins pulling equipment from storage. Whoever these escapees are, they're about to learn why his team's success rate was legendary. The ghosts of his past might haunt him, but they also taught him everything he needs to know about dealing with threats. The storm rages outside, but within the hidden room, Marcus Steele transforms from retiring farmer back into the operator who made hardened combat veterans speak his name with respect. It's been 5 years since he last did this, but some skills never fade. Some instincts stay sharp, no matter how deeply you try to bury them. Time to go to work, Zeus, he murmurs, checking his weapons with practiced efficiency. The dog's posture shifts, combat training replacing domestic comfort. Together, they ascend the stairs, leaving the ghosts behind, but carrying their lessons forward. The storm's about to meet something far more dangerous than escaped convicts. A Delta Force commander with nothing left to lose. The storm intensifies as Marcus moves through his house, transforming his home into a fortress. Each room becomes a potential strong point, each window a firing position, each doorway a choke point. Zeus follows silently, understanding that their daily routine has shifted into something far more serious. Marcus's phone buzzes again. Sheriff Cooper's voice is tense. Just got confirmation. 12 inmates escaped. Among them is Victor Rudenko. Marcus's blood runs cold. The arms dealer he'd failed to eliminate in Syria, captured 2 years later by another team, now free and potentially heading his way. Bill. Marcus's voice remains steady despite the revelation. Rudenko's not just another prisoner. He's ex-Spetsnaz, highly trained. Keep your deputies clear of the area. A pause. And Bill, if you lose contact with me, initiate Protocol Echo. The sheriff's sharp intake of breath confirms he understands. Protocol Echo, their prearranged signal for extreme threat response. The security feeds show the intruders splitting into 3 groups. Professional spacing, coordinated movements, not the chaotic patterns of desperate escapees. They're being led by someone with military training. Rudenko is maintaining his command presence even in Prison Orange. Marcus activates his secondary defense systems. Hidden speakers around the property's perimeter begin emitting infrasound frequencies. Not enough to be consciously noticed, but sufficient to induce anxiety and disorientation in anyone without proper protection. The farm's irrigation system, modified for this exact scenario, starts releasing a specialized chemical mixture into the mist, harmless but making thermal imaging less reliable. Zeus's ears prick toward the barn. Through the rain-streaked windows, Marcus catches movement, quick, disciplined, purposeful. At least 4 figures using his own agricultural equipment as cover. They're good, but they don't realize every piece of machinery has been placed to create specific lines of fire from the house. Time to welcome our guests, Marcus mutters, pulling up the farm's subsurface imaging display. The escaping prisoners think they're approaching a simple farmhouse. They don't know about the tunnel system beneath their feet, the remote-controlled defensive positions, or the fact that every square inch of the property has been mapped for combat scenarios. The storm's static interferes with radio communications, but Marcus picks up fragments of their transmissions. Russian mixed with English, clipped military phrases. Rudenko's team isn't just trying to find shelter, they're executing a deliberate assault plan. Marcus checks his watch. 17 minutes since first contact. The police response will be hampered by the weather and rural location. He's on his own for at least an hour. His mind calculates angles, distances, timing. The storm works both ways, limiting visibility for everyone, but providing cover for movement. Zeus looks up suddenly, a low growl building in his throat. Through the security feeds, Marcus watches Rudenko himself emerge from the tree line. Even in prison clothing soaked by rain, the Russian moves with deadly purpose. Their eyes meet across the distance, predator recognizing predator. The years of planning, waiting, and preparing are about to pay off. Let's show them why you don't. And corner a Reaper, Marcus says quietly, feeding fresh coordinates into his defense grid. Zeus takes his position by the rear door, ready to execute the attack patterns they've practiced, but never needed. Until now. The storm reaches new intensity, lightning illuminating the farm in stark flashes. In those frozen moments, Marcus catches glimpses of his opponents taking their positions. They think they're setting up an ambush. Instead, they're walking into a trap 5 years in the making. Thunder rolls across the sky, and the real storm is about to begin. The first attack comes from the barn. 2 inmates trying to be stealthy, but betraying their position with every amateur move. Marcus watches through his thermal scope as they approach the back door, their body language screaming their intentions. Before they even reach the steps, classic prisoner mentality, Marcus whispers to Zeus, always go for the back door. The dog's muscles tense, ready, but waiting for the command. Years of training have taught him perfect discipline. The door handle turns slowly. They're trying to be quiet, unaware that hidden sensors are tracking their every movement. Marcus lets them get halfway through the door before he acts. A precise 3-round burst from his suppressed MP5 takes out the porch light, plunging the entrance into darkness. The inmates freeze, suddenly blind in the transition from dim light to total darkness. Federal agent, Marcus's voice booms through the darkness, using the acoustic properties of his house to seem omnipresent. You have 5 seconds to surrender. It's not strictly true. He's retired, but old habits die hard. The inmates respond with blind fire, their shots wild and uncoordinated. Amateur hour. Marcus triggers the prepared flashbangs hidden in the doorframe. The contained explosion is deafening in the enclosed space. Before the echoes fade, he's moving. Years of practice in this exact scenario guide his movements. 3 steps to the right, pivot, 2 targets illuminated by his infrared system. The first inmate goes down to a precise strike to the shoulder, disabling but not lethal. The second manages to squeeze off another shot before a throw puts him face down on the kitchen floor. Zeus, hold, Marcus commands. The dog maintains position, keeping the disabled inmates covered while Marcus secures them with zip ties. Through his earpiece, he picks up increased radio chatter from the other groups. They've heard the commotion despite the storm. 2 down, he sub-vocalizes into his throat mic, recording everything for potential legal review later. Non-lethal takedown. The inmates are cursing, one crying about his dislocated shoulder. Marcus administers quick first aid, enough to prevent shock but leaving them secured. A voice crackles through one of the fallen inmates' stolen radio. Report status. The accent is unmistakably Russian. Rudenko, coordinating his forces. Marcus captures the transmission frequency but doesn't respond. Let them wonder. Through the security feeds, he watches the other groups react. They're tightening formation, becoming more cautious. Rudenko's influence shows in their movements, more professional now, using proper tactical spacing. This isn't going to be as easy as the first encounter. "You don't understand," one of the restrained inmates gasps, fear replacing his earlier bravado. "Rudenko, he's not here just to hide. He knew about this place, about you, said you owed him for Syria." Marcus's expression doesn't change, but internally pieces click into place. This isn't a random farm chosen for shelter. Rudenko engineered this entire escape to get to him. The storm, the power failure, too perfect to be coincidence. How many men does he have loyal to him? Marcus asks, his voice carrying just enough edge to demand honesty. 7, the inmate responds quickly. Ex-military like him. The rest of us, we were just meant to cause confusion, make the escape look bigger than it was. Zeus growls softly. New movement detected. Marcus checks his feeds. The remaining groups are splitting up, establishing crossfire positions. Professional work. They're done probing and ready to start the real assault. Last chance. Rudenko's voice comes through the radio again. Come out now, Major Steele. And perhaps we keep this civilized, for old time's sake. Marcus secures the prisoners in his reinforced pantry, designed for exactly this purpose, and moves to his next defensive position. The real fight is about to begin, and both sides know it. Zeus, active defense protocol, he commands softly. The dog moves silently to his assigned position. Years of training are about to be put to the ultimate test. Through the rain-streaked windows, lightning illuminates multiple figures converging on his position. They think they have him surrounded. Time to show them why that's exactly where he wants them to be. Lightning splits the sky as Marcus watches Rudenko's men take up assault positions. Through his thermal imaging, their heat signatures glow like angry fireflies against the cold rain. 7 trained killers, plus Rudenko himself. The odds remind him of that night in Syria, but this time he has the home field advantage. Major Steele, Rudenko's voice carries over the storm. Your reputation for preparation is legendary. I spent 2 years in prison learning everything about this farm. Your defenses, your routines. Did you think I chose this storm by accident? Marcus maintains his silence, but his mind races. Rudenko had inside help. Someone feeding him information. The prison break wasn't opportunistic. It was orchestrated. A sudden explosion rocks the eastern side of the house, a diversionary attack. 2 of Rudenko's men rush the front door, while others provide covering fire. Professional work, but they don't know about the reinforced walls or the automated defense systems. Zeus, Protocol Sierra, Marcus commands. The dog disappears into a hidden passage as Marcus triggers his first real countermeasure. The front porch, designed to collapse under specific conditions, drops away beneath the attacking inmates' feet. Their shouts of surprise turn to pain as hidden nets trap them in the mud. Still playing with toys, Major? Rudenko taunts. In Syria, you had a whole team. Now you're alone. No backup, no extraction plan. Another explosion, closer this time. They're using breaching charges, military grade. The blast wave rattles windows, but fails to breach the reinforced structure. Marcus allows himself a grim smile. They're burning through their resources faster than expected. You're wrong, Victor, Marcus finally responds, his voice carried through carefully hidden speakers. I'm not alone, and this isn't Syria. On cue, Zeus emerges from another hidden exit, moving silently through the rain. The dog's training is perfect, staying low, using shadows and storm cover. The first indication Rudenko's men have of his presence is when he takes down their rear guard. With practiced efficiency, chaos erupts as the professionals realize they're being hunted from behind. Their formation breaks, discipline cracking under. Unexpected pressure. Marcus uses the confusion to move to his next prepared position. Kill the dog. Rudenko screams in Russian, but Zeus is already gone, disappearing into another hidden entrance. The remaining inmates spray bullets wildly into the darkness, wasting ammunition. Marcus triggers his second layer of defenses. Hidden lights activate, sequentially creating moving shadows that draw instinctive fire. Each muzzle flash reveals another shooter's position. He takes them down methodically. Shoulder shots, knee shots, nothing lethal, but each one precisely disabling. 5 years I planned this, Major, Rudenko's voice is closer now, having used his men's distraction to advance. 5 years thinking about how you took everything from me, my operation, my reputation. You took 2 of my men, Marcus responds, coldly changing position again. This was always going to end with one of us in the ground. The storm reaches its peak intensity as Marcus makes his decision. No more defensive tactics. Time to end this. He activates his final protocol, the one he hoped he'd never need to use. Hidden charges detonate across the property, precisely calculated to drive the remaining fighters toward the barn. Not explosives, but concentrated sound and pressure, creating an invisible corridor of force. Zeus, endgame protocol, Marcus commands. The dog acknowledges with a short bark, taking up his final position. Years of training, preparation, and waiting have led to this moment. Marcus Steele, the farmer, disappears entirely. In his place stands the Delta Force commander, who earned his reputation by never leaving a mission unfinished. The storm rages. Outside, but inside him, there's only the cold clarity of combat focus. The point of no return has been crossed. Now there's only the mission, and Major Marcus Steele always completes his mission. The barn becomes a war zone as Rudenko's remaining men seek cover inside. Marcus watches through his thermal imaging as they establish defensive positions behind farm equipment. 5 heat signatures, moving with military precision. Plus, Rudenko, somewhere in the shadows. Remember Syria, Major? Rudenko's voice echoes through the barn. How your men screamed when the charges went off. I've learned from that day, improved my techniques. Marcus maintains radio silence, but his jaw tightens. Every word is designed to provoke an emotional response, make him sloppy. Amateur psychology from a man who doesn't understand what 23 years of Delta Force operations really means. Zeus signals from his concealed position, 2 hostiles moving along the upper level. Marcus acknowledges with a hand signal invisible to anyone without night vision equipment. The storm works in their favor now, the rain masking their movements, thunder covering the sound of their preparations. Your problem, Victor, Marcus finally responds, his voice carried through hidden speakers, seeming to come from everywhere at once, is that you still think like Spetsnaz. Direct force, overwhelming power. He triggers the barn's modified ventilation system, releasing a specialized compound into the air. Not toxic, but it will make thermal imaging useless within minutes. While you spent 2 years learning about my farm, Marcus continues, moving silently through pre-planned routes, I spent 5 years preparing for men like you. This isn't a battlefield. It's a hunting ground. One of Rudenko's men panics, spraying automatic fire at shadows. The muzzle flash destroys his night vision and reveals his position. Marcus takes him down with a precise shot to the shoulder before disappearing again. Zeus, pattern Delta. Marcus subvocalizes into his throat mic. The dog moves like a ghost, using hidden passages beneath the barn floor. The remaining inmates hear scratching, movement, but can't locate the source. Psychological warfare at its finest. 2 more try to change positions, attempting to establish a crossfire. They're good, using proper coverage techniques, but Marcus has mapped every angle in this building. One goes down to a beanbag round fired from a concealed position. The other takes a rubber bullet to the knee before he can reach new cover. Your men are falling, Victor, Marcus broadcasts, continuing his psychological assault. Just like Syria, just like every time you've faced me. Want to know the difference between Delta Force and Spetsnaz? We don't need to be brutal to be effective. Rudenko responds with a burst of precise fire, showing his own considerable skill, but he's shooting at a pre-recorded sound source while Marcus is already moving to his next position. Found your source of information, by the way, Marcus continues, keeping Rudenko distracted while Zeus maneuvers into position. Guard Captain Reynolds. He sang like a bird when the FBI confronted him. Every detail of how he fed you intelligence. About my farm, your whole escape plan is compromised. A crash of thunder masks the sound of Marcus's next attack. Two flashbangs, followed by Zeus's coordinated strike from below. Another of Rudenko's men goes down, taken by surprise from an impossible angle. "You're lying," Rudenko shouts, but doubt creeps into his voice. The perfect plan he spent 2 years crafting is unraveling. His remaining men are down or disabled, his tactical advantage evaporating like mist. Marcus moves to his final position, every step calculated. "Here's what you never understood about Delta Force, Victor. We don't train to fight. We train to end fights. Every scenario planned, every contingency covered." The storm reaches a crescendo outside as Marcus springs his final trap. The barn's lights activate sequentially, creating a disorienting strobe effect, synchronized with the thunder. In the chaos, Zeus strikes again, taking down Rudenko's last standing man with practiced efficiency. Now it's just the two of them. Predator versus a predator, but only one of them is truly on his hunting ground. Marcus moves silently through the barn's hidden passages, a network of crawl spaces and observation points concealed within the walls. Through gaps designed to look like natural wear, he watches Rudenko adapt to his diminishing options. The Russian is good, falling back to defensible positions, maintaining awareness of multiple angles, but he's fighting blind, unaware of the barn's true nature. "Your setup is impressive, Major," Rudenko calls out, his voice steady despite his isolation. "The collapsing porch, the automated defenses, but you've forgotten something crucial." He pauses, and Marcus catches a glint of metal in the strobing lights. "I brought insurance." A small device appears in Rudenko's hand, military-grade detonator. "Guards aren't the only ones I turned. Your local building inspector was quite helpful. Let me place some presents during your last renovation inspection." Marcus's mind races and calculating. The inspector had access 6 months ago, plenty of time to plant explosives, but Rudenko doesn't know about the weekly sweeps Marcus conducts or the detection equipment built into the barn's structure. 5 charges, Rudenko continues. "Enough to bring this whole place down. Shall we test your renovations, Major?" Zeus whines softly through Marcus's earpiece, their signal for detected explosives, but the dog's tone is different. Marcus checks his structural scanner and allows himself a grim smile. The charges are there, but they're not what Rudenko thinks. "You know what your biggest mistake was, Victor?" Marcus's voice echoes through hidden speakers. "Trusting corrupt officials. Your building inspector, he works for me. Those charges you planted, I found them, replaced them. Right now you're holding a detonator to your own knockout gas delivery system." Rudenko's confidence wavers for just a moment, enough to confirm Marcus's suspicion. The Russian doesn't have a backup plan for this. "You're bluffing," Rudenko snarls, but his eyes dart to the corners where he planted the charges. Marcus triggers his next sequence. Hidden panels in the barn walls slide open, revealing an arsenal that would make military contractors envious. Tactical weapons, advanced surveillance gear, specialized riot control equipment, 5 years of preparation on full display. This isn't a farm with defensive measures, Victor. It's a defensive position disguised as a farm. Every beam, every board, every nail placed with purpose. Marcus moves to his next position, voice carrying through multiple speakers. "That renovation? Just an excuse to add the final touches." Rudenko responds with precise bursts of fire, but he's shooting at acoustical mirages. Marcus's voice seems to come from everywhere and nowhere, a ghost in the machine of his own creation. "Your Spetsnaz training is showing," Marcus continues. "Looking for targets, seeking engagement, Delta Force. We create environments, control scenarios. The fight is won before the first shot." As if to demonstrate, Marcus activates another system. Electromagnetic pulses disable Rudenko's night vision equipment. The Russian pulls the device off just before it shorts out, cursing in his native tongue. "Getting frustrated, Victor? Good. Now you know how my men felt in Syria. Difference is, I learned from that day. Did you?" Rudenko's response is a desperate move. He triggers the detonator. Instead of explosions, hidden nozzles release a fine mist, non-lethal, but Rudenko doesn't know that. He holds his breath, expecting poison, giving Marcus the opening he needs. Zeus emerges from a concealed panel, crossing the distance to Rudenko with terrifying speed. The Russian manages one shot before the dog takes him down with trained precision, disarming him with practiced efficiency. Marcus steps into view, every movement measured. You spent 2 years learning about this farm. I spent 23 years learning how to turn any environment into a weapon. Welcome to my masterpiece. Rudenko struggles against Zeus's hold, his face a mask of fury and disbelief. You can't win this clean, Major, not after Syria. We both know what kind of man you really are. Marcus checks his security feeds one last time. The storm rages outside, but inside the barn, everything is precisely under his control. 5 years of planning, preparation, and patience are about to pay off. You're right, Victor. Syria changed me, made me better, smarter. He raises his modified rifle, loaded with non-lethal rounds. Let me show you how. Darkness descends like a shroud as the storm knocks out the local power grid. The barn plunges into pitch blackness, broken only by lightning flashes and the dim emergency lights Marcus had installed years ago. Rudenko uses the moment of transition to make his move, throwing a hidden flashbang that momentarily blinds both Marcus and Zeus. First rule of Spetsnaz, Rudenko shouts, rolling to cover. Always keep one last surprise. The flashbang is military grade, but Marcus had anticipated this possibility. His tactical goggles automatically adjusted, minimizing the effect. Zeus recovers first, years of training overriding the disorientation. The dog moves to his secondary position, maintaining pressure on Rudenko while Marcus repositions. Through his enhanced optics, Marcus watches the Russian commander demonstrate why he was feared, even among special forces. Rudenko's movement is fluid, efficient, every action calculated. He's already identified the barn's weak points, the places where Marcus's defenses might have gaps. You've gone soft, Major, he taunts. All these non-lethal weapons, these careful preparations. The Marcus Steele I knew in Syria wouldn't hesitate to end this. The Marcus Steele you knew died in Syria, Marcus responds, triggering another series of defensive measures. Hidden panels slide open, releasing pre-positioned smoke grenades. The specialized smoke plays havoc with normal night vision. Equipment Rudenko likely stole during the prison break. But Rudenko proves his resourcefulness again. He produces a thermal scope, primitive compared to Marcus's gear, but effective enough. Your reputation in Delta Force was legendary, he calls out. The man who could turn any environment into a weapon. But you're not that man anymore. I've watched you these past 5 years, growing soft, comfortable, weak. Marcus allows himself a grim smile. You watched what I wanted you to see. Every morning routine, every predictable pattern. All of it designed for this moment. You're not fighting a farmer who used to be Delta Force, Victor. You're fighting a Delta Force commander who happens to own a farm. The distinction becomes clear as Marcus activates his true defense grid. The barn's entire structure comes alive with technology that would make military contractors envious. Every beam, every shadow, every corner becomes part of an integrated combat system. Remember that mission in Kazakhstan? Marcus continues, keeping Rudenko distracted while Zeus maneuvers into position. How you always complained that Delta Force relied too much on technology. Let me show you why. The barn's emergency lights shift subtly, creating disorienting patterns, designed to break up depth perception. Hidden speakers emit infrasound frequencies that induce anxiety and disorientation. Every element carefully calculated, tested, and refined over 5 years of preparation. Rudenko adapts quickly, but even his Spetsnaz training can't fully compensate. He's fighting not just a man, but an entire environment designed to defeat him. "You can't hide behind your toys forever, Major," he growls, frustration evident in his voice. "Sooner or later, this comes down to just you and me." "That's where you're wrong," Marcus replies. "It was never about hiding. It was about controlling the battlefield, something you never understood in Syria, why we beat you then, and why you'll lose now." The storm reaches a new intensity, rain hammering the barn's roof like machine gun fire. Lightning illuminates the interior in stark flashes, creating a strobe effect that adds to the disorientation. In this environment, traditional combat skills mean less than the ability to adapt, to think 3 moves ahead. Zeus signals from his position. Rudenko is almost in place. The Russian doesn't realize he's being herded, his movements predicted, and controlled by the very defenses he thinks he's avoiding. Each step brings him closer to the one spot in the barn where all of Marcus's systems converge. "Last chance, Victor," Marcus offers, more out of professional courtesy than mercy. "Surrender now. You might survive the night." Rudenko's laugh is cold, professional. "You know better, Major. Men like us, we don't surrender. We finish what we start." "Agreed," Marcus responds, his finger tightening on the trigger. "Zeus, execute pattern Alpha." The night erupts into chaos, and the real battle begins. The barn becomes a battlefield of shadows and psychology as Rudenko fortifies his position behind steel farming equipment. His remaining men, those still conscious, have retreated to the upper level, creating a defensive position that would be impressive under normal circumstances. But these aren't normal circumstances. "Tell me, Victor," Marcus's voice echoes through hidden speakers, "did your intelligence sources tell you about the modifications I made to that tractor you're using as cover?" A pause, letting the question sink in. "Specifically, the fuel tank?" Rudenko immediately shifts position, realizing too late that what he thought was solid cover could be a potential death trap. It's exactly the reaction Marcus wanted, making him second-guess every decision, every position. "Your problem was always intelligence gathering," Marcus continues, keeping Rudenko's attention split. Too focused on the obvious, the security, cameras, the reinforced walls. "Did you ever wonder why I bought this specific barn? Why this exact location?" Zeus moves silently through the shadows, using routes practiced hundreds of times. The dog's training shows in every movement, not just military precision, but intimate knowledge of the terrain. This isn't just a battlefield, it's their home. "The previous owner was interesting." Marcus's voice shifts to another speaker, making Rudenko track the sound. "Joseph Miller, retired Army Corps of Engineers, specialized in underground structures. He didn't just build this barn, he built it to spec. My spec." Rudenko's men are getting nervous. Marcus can see it in their heat signatures, the way they shift positions more frequently. Professional soldiers recognize when they're in a trap, even if they can't see its edges. "Boss," one of them calls down in Russian, "something's wrong with the floor up here. It's moving." Marcus allows himself a grim smile. The upper level's specially designed flooring is beginning to work as intended, subtle vibrations creating a sensation of instability, not enough to be obvious, just enough to erode confidence. "Your Spetsnaz training taught you to control the battlefield." Marcus continues his psychological assault. "Delta Force taught me to become the battlefield. Everything you touch, every position you take, it's all part of my design." A burst of automatic fire from Rudenko shows his growing frustration. The shots are precise but useless, striking only empty space where Marcus's voice seemed to originate. More wasted ammunition, exactly as planned. "Running low yet?" Marcus asks, knowing Rudenko can't have much left. "Prison weapons aren't known for coming with spare magazines. Another detail your intelligence missed." Zeus signals from his position. Two of Rudenko's men are trying to create an escape route through the rear wall. They don't realize the wall panels are reinforced steel, disguised as weathered wood. Their tools will make noise, but no progress. Your men are starting to understand, Victor. This isn't a siege, it's a lesson. The same lesson you should have learned in Syria. Never underestimate your environment. The storm outside reaches a new intensity, rain hammering the roof like artillery. Fire! Lightning illuminates the interior in stark flashes, revealing glimpses of Marcus's true preparations. Gun ports disguised as ventilation, defensive positions built into support beams, 5 years of planning revealed in strobing snapshots. They said you broke in prison, Marcus continues, his voice moving through the speaker system in patterns designed to disorient. That you spent your days obsessing over our last encounter. But you didn't break, did you? You evolved, adapted, planned, just not well enough. Rudenko's response is coldly professional. And they said you found peace here, Major, built a new life. But look at all this, the preparations, the contingencies. You're as broken as I am. You just hide it better. The words are meant to sting, to provoke an emotional response. But Marcus has spent 5 years preparing for this moment, mentally as much as tactically. You're right about one thing, Victor. I did build a new life here, and you just made the mistake of threatening it. A subtle signal from Zeus confirms the final positions. Rudenko's men have unknowingly arranged themselves exactly where Marcus needs them. The trap is ready. All the psychological pressure, the careful manipulation of movement and position has led to this moment. Time to show you the difference. Between Spetsnaz and Delta Force, Marcus says quietly, his finger moving to the trigger. You break your enemies. We reshape their reality. The siege is about to become a hunt, and the hunter has home field advantage. The first man breaks exactly as Marcus predicted. Young, ex-military but inexperienced, his nerve cracks under the combined pressure of psychological warfare and environmental manipulation. He makes a run for the barn doors, ignoring Rudenko's. Sharp command to hold position. Don't let them reach the doors, Rudenko shouts in Russian. It's what he wants. But the warning comes too late. Marcus's trap activates with precision. Motion sensors trigger a sequence of non-lethal deterrents, strobe lights, disorienting sound, and targeted air pressure changes. The runner stumbles, his equilibrium shattered, and Zeus appears like a ghost from the shadows. The takedown is textbook, fast and efficient. One down, Marcus broadcasts through the speakers. Who's next to realize you're trapped in here with a ghost? Rudenko's response is a burst of controlled fire, but his professional demeanor shows cracks. His remaining men are wavering, their confidence eroding with each passing minute. The barn, they thought was a defensible position, has become a psychological maze. Your men are wondering, Victor, Marcus continues, his voice seemingly everywhere at once. Why did their leader choose this farm? Why risk everything for a personal vendetta? What aren't you telling them? The question hits home. Marcus watches through his thermal imaging as two of Rudenko's men exchange glances. The seeds of doubt are growing. He's playing mind games, Rudenko snaps. Stay focused, watch the shadows. But his authority is slipping. These men followed him out of prison on the promise of freedom, not a suicide mission against a Delta Force operator. Marcus triggers his next sequence. Hidden panels in the walls slide open and shut randomly, creating phantom movement. Zeus uses the distraction to relocate, his presence felt but never seen. The combination makes the barn feel alive, predatory. Tell them, Victor, Marcus pushes. Harder. Tell them about Syria, about how your arms deal went bad not because of my team, but because you tried to double-cross your own buyers. How many of your men died that day because of your greed? Lies. Rudenko's shot pattern becomes erratic, emotion overriding training. He's trying to divide us. Hold your positions. But the damage is done. Another of his men breaks formation, trying to find better cover. Marcus's automated systems herd him perfectly into a prepared containment area. Compressed air jets and targeted sound waves drop him before he can recover. 2 down, Marcus counts. Your team's falling apart, Victor, just like in Syria. Just like every operation you've ever led. Want to know why? Because you don't understand the difference between leadership and control. The psychological pressure builds. Every shadow becomes a threat. Every creak of the barn's structure carries menace. Marcus's voice continues its relentless assault, calm and professional, in contrast to their growing panic. Your men are thinking. Clearer now, he observes, realizing that following you wasn't loyalty, it was submission to a bully. How many of them know about the other team you betrayed in Kazakhstan, or the operation in Georgia that got 3 units wiped out? Zeus signals from his position. The remaining men are clustering closer to Rudenko, but their body language shows defensive posturing rather than tactical cohesion. They're no longer protecting their leader. They're seeking protection from what's hunting them. Last chance, Marcus offers. Surrender now and you walk out of here alive. Stay with him and learn why Delta Force operators don't need to use fear to control their men. The breaking point comes suddenly. 2 of Rudenko's remaining soldiers drop their weapons simultaneously, hands raised. "Don't shoot!" one calls out, in accented English. "We're done. No more." Rudenko's reaction is instantaneous and brutal. He turns his weapon on his own men, but Marcus is faster. A precisely aimed, non-lethal round catches the Russian in the shoulder, spinning him off balance. "That's why you'll always lose," Marcus states flatly. "You never learned that true strength comes from building trust, not breaking spirits." The barn falls silent, except for the storm outside. Rudenko stands alone now, his team either captured or surrendered. The psychological battle is won, but Marcus knows the physical fight is about to become more dangerous. A cornered predator is at its most lethal. "Just you and me now, Victor," Marcus says quietly. "The way you wanted it. Let's finish what started in Syria." Rudenko's counterattack comes with the fury of a cornered tiger. He triggers his final contingency, shaped charges hidden in his surrendered men's equipment. The explosion rocks the barn's structure, creating genuine chaos for the first time. "In the battle, you're not the only one who plans ahead, Major." Rudenko's voice carries through the smoke. The Russian commander has switched tactics entirely, abandoning precision for raw aggression. He's betting that Marcus's non-lethal approach will be a disadvantage in close quarters. The gamble almost pays off. Rudenko bursts through the smoke, using his surrendered men as cover, forcing Marcus to hold his fire. Zeus moves to intercept, but takes a glancing hit from debris, the first real injury of the night. "Zeus, fall back," Marcus commands, hearing the pain in his dog's yelp. For the first time, genuine anger edges into his voice. "That was a mistake, Victor." "Finally." Rudenko laughs, pressing his advantage. "There's the Marcus Steele I remember, the killer behind the soldier. Show me that man, the one who left no survivors in Damascus." The smoke is playing havoc with thermal imaging, part of Rudenko's plan. He's forcing the fight into pure combat skills, where his Spetsnaz training shines. His first burst of fire comes dangerously close, showing why he was feared even among special forces. "You're thinking like Spetsnaz again," Marcus responds, cycling through backup systems. "Creating chaos, hoping superior violence wins the day. But you forgot something crucial." "And what's that, Major?" Rudenko advances, his movements precise despite his wounded shoulder. "I chose this barn for a reason." Marcus triggers his failsafe system. Hidden vents activate, creating directed airflows that clear the smoke in controlled patterns. Every contingency, every possibility, planned for and countered. But Rudenko proves why he was worth a maximum security cell. He uses the air currents to his advantage, throwing modified flashbangs that follow the flow patterns. The explosion of light and sound is amplified by the barn's architecture. Your preparations are impressive, Rudenko acknowledges, closing distance. But you built all this to avoid killing. I have no such limitation. The Russians' assault is perfectly timed. He's studied Marcus's methods, knows that most of the automated defenses are non-lethal. In close quarters, his willingness to kill could be the decisive factor. Marcus is forced to abandon 3 prepared positions, giving ground strategically as Rudenko presses forward. Zeus circles the conflict, looking for an opening but hampered by his injury. The dynamic of the battle has shifted dramatically. You're right about one thing, Marcus says calmly, even as he deflects a vicious close-quarters attack. I did build this place to avoid killing, but not because I've gone soft. Rudenko launches a combination strike, his prison time clearly spent maintaining his combat skills. No? Then why pull your punches, Major? Why build such elaborate non-lethal defenses? Because killing is easy, Marcus responds, countering with a move that sends Rudenko stumbling. Any soldier can kill, but it takes a special kind of training. To win without killing, the kind of training that makes Delta Force different. The Russian recovers quickly, but something changes in his expression. Understanding begins to dawn. The non-lethal weapons, the psychological warfare, the careful preparation. This isn't just a defensive position. Now you're getting it, Marcus confirms. This isn't a kill house. It's a training ground. Everything you see here, every system and countermeasure, was designed to prepare for something bigger than you. The revelation throws Rudenko off balance, mentally if not physically. You've spent 5 years preparing for what? What could be worse than me? Marcus allows himself a grim smile. You're about to find out. Zeus, Protocol Omega. The dog, despite his injury, moves with renewed purpose. The barn's systems cycle into a new configuration, and Rudenko realizes too late that everything before was just a prelude. The real battle is about to begin. The barn's systems cycle into their final configuration as Rudenko realizes his mistake. The Russian's eyes widen as hidden panels slide away, revealing not just weapons and tactical gear, but elaborate computer systems and communication arrays. What is this place? He demands, his tactical assessment shifting rapidly. This isn't just a training facility. Finally asking the right questions, Marcus responds, moving to a specific position. You thought you chose this farm, Victor. Thought your prison intelligence led you here. Want to know who really chose this target? Zeus takes up position near a concealed terminal, his injury seemingly forgotten as training overrides pain. The dog's behavior has changed, becoming more alert, more focused. Your intelligence source, Guard Captain Reynolds? Marcus continues. He doesn't work for the prison system. He works for Delta Force Special Operations Division. Every piece of information you received was carefully selected, designed to bring you exactly here, exactly now. Rudenko's face transforms as understanding dawns. This was a trap, but not for prison escapees. This facility has one purpose, Marcus confirms, to capture and interrogate a specific type of target. Someone who knows the location of 8 stolen nuclear devices that disappeared from a Russian facility 3 years ago. The revelation hits Rudenko like a physical blow. How did you? That operation was completely dark. Even my buyers didn't know the full scope. Because I was there, Victor. The mission you thought failed in Syria, it succeeded. We let you escape but planted a tracker, followed your network, learned about the nuclear devices, but you went to ground before we could locate them. Rudenko's professional demeanor cracks, slightly. The prison sentence, the corrupt guards, everything was orchestrated. A 3-year operation, Marcus confirms. designed to make you think you were in control, make you believe this was about revenge. Because the one thing we learned about you in Syria, you're at your sloppiest when you think you're winning. The Russian commander reassesses everything. The non-lethal weapons, the psychological warfare, the elaborate security systems, not just defensive measures, but a sophisticated interrogation environment, the neural mapping equipment hidden in the barn's sensors, Rudenko realizes. The psychological pressure systems. You weren't trying to defeat me. We were preparing to break you, Marcus finishes. Everything you've experienced tonight was calibrated, measured, designed to bring you to this moment. When you're off balance, your carefully constructed mental defenses at their weakest. Zeus moves to another position, and Rudenko notices how the dog's movements match a precise pattern. The entire space has been choreographed for this revelation. You're not just a retired Delta Force operator, Rudenko says slowly. This isn't just a private operation. Welcome to Site Echo, Victor, Delta Force's most sophisticated black site interrogation facility, hidden in plain sight, disguised as a simple farm. And you just walked right in. The storm outside reaches its peak intensity, but inside the barn, a different kind of storm is about to break. The real operation is about to begin. Rudenko's laughter fills the barn, cold and bitter. 3 years of planning, an entire black site disguised as a farm, all to find 8 nuclear devices. No, Major, you're still hiding something, like what really happened to your men in Syria. Marcus's expression doesn't change, but Zeus picks up on his tension, growling softly. You don't want to go there, Victor. But I do. Rudenko presses, circling slowly. His tactical movement is perfect, but now he's hunting for psychological weak points rather than physical ones. Your official report said 2 men died in the firefight, but that's not the whole truth, is it? The barn's systems continue their transformation, equipment emerging from hidden compartments. But Marcus's focus has shifted. Old wounds carefully buried begin to surface. Your men didn't die in the firefight, Rudenko continues. They died in the basement, after I told them about the buyer, about who really arranged the whole operation. Enough. Marcus's voice carries an edge that even Zeus has rarely heard. Tell me, Major, when did you figure it out? When did you realize the nuclear devices were just a cover story, that the real target was something far more valuable? Marcus's hand tightens on his weapon. When I found the files, the ones linking the operation to someone inside Delta Force, someone who'd been selling operational intelligence to the highest bidder for years. And now you know why I chose this confrontation. Rudenko's smile is predatory. Why I let your team plant that tracker, followed your elaborate plan, because somewhere in this facility you're keeping evidence about the traitor, the one who really got your men killed. Zeus whines suddenly. Something's wrong. The dog's injury is worse than it appeared, blood matting his fur. The sight of his wounded partner breaks Marcus's professional demeanor for the first time. You're right, Marcus admits, moving to check Zeus while keeping Rudenko covered. This facility isn't just about the nuclear devices. It's about exposing the entire network, every corrupt official, every compromised operator, all of it. And that's why you'll fail, Rudenko advances, sensing advantage. Because the network goes deeper than you imagine. Guard Captain Reynolds. He wasn't working for Delta Force. He was working for the same people I do, the same people your traitor works for. The revelation lands like a physical blow. Marcus's carefully constructed operation suddenly shows its first crack. You're lying, am I? How do you think I knew exactly where to place those charges? Why your automated defenses didn't detect them? Someone gave me the facility's blueprints. Someone with high-level access. Zeus struggles to stand, the blood loss taking its toll. Marcus has to make a choice, tend to his partner or maintain tactical advantage. It's the kind of decision that haunts operators, the same choice he faced in Syria. Your weakness, Major. Rudenko presses his advantage, is that you still think like a soldier. Honor, loyalty, duty, but this isn't a military operation, it's a shadow war. And in the shadows, the only truth that matters is power. The storm outside has reached its peak, but inside the barn, an even greater storm is building. Marcus Steele, the legendary Delta Force operator, faces a decision that will define not just this mission, but his entire career. You're wrong about one thing, Marcus says finally, his voice deadly calm. I don't think like a soldier anymore. I think like someone who spent 3 years preparing for exactly this moment. Zeus, Protocol Sigma. The dog, despite his injury, moves with sudden purpose. Hidden panels slide open, revealing something that makes even Rudenko step back. The true nature of Site Echo is about to be revealed, and with it, the real reason Marcus Steele never really retired. The barn's transformation reaches its final stage, as hidden panels reveal Site Echo's true purpose. Advanced interrogation equipment, state-of-the-art surveillance systems, and something else. Something that makes Rudenko's eyes widen in recognition. The quantum decryption array, the Russian breathes. The one that disappeared from the NSA facility last year, so this is where they've been hiding it. Not just hiding, Marcus confirms, applying a quick field dressing to Zeus's wound. The dog's breathing steadies, his training keeping him focused despite the injury. Using it to decrypt every piece of intelligence we've gathered on your network. 3 years of surveillance, all of it ready for processing. You think technology will give you the answers. Rudenko scoffs, but his eyes keep tracking the array. Your precious machines can't reveal what's in men's hearts. Marcus checks his weapons one final time, each movement precise, despite the tension. No, but they can reveal banking transactions, hidden communications, buried files, everything your organization thought was safely encrypted. The storm outside begins to fade, but neither man notices. They're focused entirely on each other now, 2 apex predators preparing for their final clash. Zeus, defensive position Delta, Marcus commands softly. The dog moves to his assigned spot, guarding the critical equipment. You know what's happening. Now, Victor, why everything had to lead to this moment? Rudenko's expression shows he's beginning to understand. The prison break, the storm, the power failure. It wasn't just about capturing me. You needed an excuse for what's about to happen. Here, when this is over, Marcus confirms. The official report will show that escaped prisoners tried to seize a hidden military facility, that everything that happened was in defense of classified material. The Russians' laugh is cold. The perfect cover story. Any evidence that doesn't fit your narrative can be dismissed as damage from the fight. Very clean, Major. Very professional. I learned from the best, Marcus acknowledges, initiating the facility's final protocol. Armored shutters seal the windows, backup power systems hum to life, and advanced air filtration begins clearing the smoke from earlier fighting. Zeus growls suddenly, movement outside. The perimeter sensors show multiple vehicles approaching. Right on schedule, Marcus notes, backup teams taking position. Once they're in place, this facility becomes a black box. Nothing gets in or out without authorization. You've thought of everything, Rudenko admits, testing the weight of his remaining weapons. Except one small detail. What makes you think I'll let you take me alive? Because you don't have a choice, Marcus responds, revealing his final preparation. That wound in your shoulder, the one you think came from a rubber bullet, the projectile contained a specially designed tracking compound. Right now, it's bonding. With your nervous system, in about 30 seconds, I'll be able to immobilize you with the push of a button. Rudenko's hand moves to his shoulder, understanding dawning. All this technology, all these preparations. You're not just after the nuclear devices or the traitor. This is about something bigger. Much bigger, Marcus confirms. This facility isn't just for interrogation. It's a prototype, the first of many. A new kind of black site designed to unravel organizations like yours piece by piece. The Russian commander stands straighter, professional pride evident despite his situation. Then let's make this interesting, Major. One last dance before your machines and compounds take over. Operator to operator. Marcus checks the timer on his tactical display. 20 seconds until the tracking compound takes full effect. Last chance, Victor. Tell me what I want to know. Make this easy on yourself. You know that's not how this works, Rudenko responds, dropping into a combat stance. Some answers can only be earned through blood. Zeus takes his final position as Marcus prepares for combat. Everything has led to this moment. 3 years of planning, 5 years of preparation, and a lifetime of training. The storm outside has passed, but inside Site Echo, the real storm is about to begin. The quantum decryption array hums to life, its processors beginning their work. Rudenko watches the screens fill with decoding data, his expression a mixture of resignation and professional admiration. You know what happens when those files decrypt, Marcus says quietly. Every operation, every contact, every hidden account, all of it exposed. The network you spent a decade building will collapse in minutes. Unless I stop it, Rudenko responds, his muscles tensing for combat. The tracking compound is nearly active, but they both know he has one last chance to prevent the inevitable. Zeus shifts position, compensating for his injury while maintaining guard over the crucial equipment. The dog's tactical movements mirror his master's, both of them positioning for the final confrontation. Tell me something, Major, Rudenko says, circling slowly. When did you realize I wasn't working alone inside the prison? That others were helping coordinate this attack? The moment you arrived, Marcus responds, matching Rudenko's movement. Your intelligence was too perfect, your timing too precise. Someone with high-level access was feeding you information. The Russian smiles coldly. And now you know why this facility was necessary. The corruption goes deeper than anyone suspects. Your own organization is compromised. That's why we built. Site Echo off the books, Marcus confirms. No official records, no digital footprint. Just a handful of trusted operators and enough processing power to unravel a decade of encrypted communications. Rudenko's eyes narrow. The traitor in Delta Force, you know who it is, don't you? You've known all along. Colonel Harrison, Marcus states flatly. Your primary contact, the one who arranged your escape tonight. He's been under surveillance for months, feeding you exactly the information we wanted you to have. The revelation lands like a physical blow. For the first time, genuine shock shows on Rudenko's face. Harrison, but he ordered the Syria operation. He was your commanding officer, which is why it had to be this way, Marcus explains. A hidden facility, a staged prison break, an elaborate trap, all of it designed to capture you alive with evidence that can't be disputed or buried. Zeus growls suddenly. The perimeter sensors show the backup teams are in final position. Sight. Echo is now completely isolated from the outside world. Impressive, Rudenko acknowledges. But you've overlooked one crucial detail. The tracking compound in my shoulder. I've been trained to resist such methods. Chemical countermeasures implanted under my skin. Marcus allows himself a grim smile. Who do you think designed those countermeasures, Victor? Everything you think protects you was created by the same people who built this facility. Your chemical defenses won't work. The Russian commander processes this, his tactical mind reassessing options. Then we do this the hard way, one last battle operator to operator, for Syria, for everything that came after. No more games, Marcus agrees, moving to his final position. No more proxies or politics, just you and me, settling things the old way. Zeus takes up his assault stance as the quantum array continues its relentless decryption. In 10 minutes, the files will be processed, the network exposed, and a decade of covert operations laid bare. One question, Rudenko says, preparing for combat. Why did you let me get this close? Why risk everything on a physical confrontation? When you could have taken me down the moment I entered the barn. Marcus's response is cold and professional, because some answers can only be found in combat. Some truths only reveal themselves when men are pushed to their absolute limits. The final approach begins, two master operators moving with lethal precision. Everything has led to this moment, years of planning, decades of training, and a lifetime of preparation. The storm outside has passed, but inside Site Echo, the real storm is about to break. The final confrontation explodes with devastating precision. Rudenko moves first, his attack a perfect combination of Spetsnaz hand-to-hand and prison yard brutality. But Marcus is ready. Years of Delta Force training combining with intimate knowledge of his environment. The tracking compound, Rudenko grunts, launching another strike. It's not working. Your technology has failed, Major. No, Marcus counters, deflecting the attack. It's working exactly as designed. Not to stop you, to track everything you do, every movement, every reaction, all of it feeding into the quantum array, building a complete profile of your combat responses. Zeus circles the fight, maintaining his guard position despite his injury. The dog's presence forces Rudenko to split his attention, preventing him from fully committing to any single attack vector. The files are decrypting, Marcus continues, launching his own combination. Every second we fight, more of your network is exposed. Bank accounts in Dubai, safe houses in Belgrade, the entire operation coming apart. Rudenko's response is a devastating series of strikes that would have incapacitated a lesser opponent. But Marcus has spent 5 years preparing for exactly this moment. Each attack is met with a precise counter, each movement calculated to wear down the Russians' defenses. You still don't understand, Rudenko snarls, blood from his shoulder wound staining his prison uniform. The network is bigger than you imagine. Even if you expose everything, others will take our place. The quantum array's screens flash with decrypted data. Operational plans, personnel files, financial records. 3 years of surveillance being processed in minutes. That's where you're wrong, Marcus responds, driving Rudenko back with a perfectly timed combination. Site Echo isn't just about your organization. It's about creating a template, a way to unravel networks like yours systematically. Zeus signals suddenly, movement outside. The backup teams are switching to final containment positions. The facility is now completely locked down. Rudenko changes tactics, attempting to reach the array's control panel. But Marcus has anticipated this, herding the Russian into a prepared kill zone. Multiple containment systems activate simultaneously, creating a barrier of sound and pressure. Your men in Syria, Rudenko gasps, fighting through the disorientation. They didn't die because of me. They died because they discovered the truth about Harrison, about how deep the corruption really goes. I know, Marcus acknowledges, his next strike landing with devastating force. That's why this had to be perfect. Why we needed irrefutable evidence, the kind that comes from pushing a master operator to his absolute limit. The fight intensifies, both men drawing on their deepest training. Rudenko's Spetsnaz background shows in his lethal efficiency, but Marcus's Delta Force experience proves superior in this carefully controlled environment. The tracking compound, Rudenko realizes suddenly, it's not just monitoring my movements. It's mapping my neural responses. Everything I know, everything I've hidden, you're pulling it directly from my nervous system. Welcome to the future of interrogation, Marcus confirms, launching another precise combination. No torture, no questionable methods, just pure data extraction during peak combat stress. Zeus moves with sudden purpose, forcing Rudenko away from the array's backup controls. The dog's injury hasn't diminished his tactical effectiveness, his movements perfectly coordinated with his master's attack pattern. It won't matter. Rudenko growls, blood loss beginning to affect his performance. Harrison has contingencies. The moment he suspects something's wrong, he'll find himself in another site echo facility, Marcus interrupts. Did you think this was the only one? Right now, similar operations are being executed across 3 continents, your entire network being dismantled simultaneously. The revelation staggers Rudenko more than any physical blow. The scope of what he's facing finally becomes clear, not just a single operation, but a complete paradigm shift in how covert networks are neutralized. The farm, the preparations, the elaborate defense systems, he gasps, all of it was a prototype, proving that this method works. And you proved it perfectly, Marcus confirms, his next strike targeting a nerve cluster. Every reaction, every technique, every piece of intelligence we extracted, all of it validating the concept. The quantum array's screens flash with completed decryption, the full scope of Rudenko's network laid bare in perfect detail. But the Russian has one last card to play. With desperate strength, he triggers a hidden device, a dead man's switch wired to explosives that had escaped detection. If I die, this whole facility burns. All your evidence, all your data, everything. Marcus's response is coldly professional. Zeus, Protocol Omega. The dog moves with devastating speed, targeting not Rudenko but the device itself. Years of specialized training culminate in a precise disarming bite that would make bomb disposal experts envious. That's the difference between us, Marcus states. Moving in for the final sequence. You plan for destruction, we plan for preservation. Every contingency, every possibility covered and countered. The fight ends with surgical precision. 3 strikes, perfectly placed. And Rudenko goes down, not dead. Death would be too easy. Instead, he's captured alive, his neural responses still feeding precious data to the quantum array. As backup teams breach the facility, securing the prisoners and collecting evidence, Marcus kneels beside Zeus, treating the dog's wound with practiced care. It's over, he says quietly, both to his faithful partner and to Rudenko's unconscious form. The next generation of covert operations proven effective in the field. Site Echo's mission accomplished. The storm has passed completely now. Dawn, breaking over the horizon. But inside the facility, the real work is just beginning. The data must be processed, the network dismantled, and preparations made for the next phase of operations. Marcus Steele has completed his mission, but his war is far from over. Other facilities will need commanders, other networks will need to be unraveled. The quiet life of a farmer was never really his destiny. Zeus licks his master's hand, understanding in his eyes. They both know that this was never about retirement. It was about evolution, about finding new ways to fight the shadows that threaten the light. The day of reckoning has arrived, not just for Rudenko and his network, but for anyone who thinks they can hide in the dark corners of the world. Sight. Echo stands as a testament to a new kind of warfare, precise, systematic, and absolutely unstoppable. Dawn breaks over the farm as federal vehicles quietly disappear into the morning mist. The prisoners have been transported, the evidence secured, and Site Echo's systems powered down to their dormant state. To any observer, the property would appear to be nothing more than what it claims, a simple farm recovering from a violent storm. Marcus stands on his porch, Zeus bandaged but alert at his side, watching Sheriff Cooper's patrol car approach. The local law enforcement's role in maintaining the facility's cover has been invaluable. Quite a night, Cooper comments, stepping out of his vehicle. Official report says escaped prisoners tried to take shelter here, got more than they bargained. For when they ran into an old Delta Force operator protecting his property, simple enough story, Marcus agrees. The kind that won't raise questions about missing prisoners or classified facilities. The sheriff surveys the property's superficial damage, precisely controlled destruction designed to support the cover story. The town's already talking about how one retired soldier held off 12 escaped convicts. You'll be a local legend. Better than them knowing the truth, Marcus responds, scratching Zeus behind the ears. That their quiet farming community hosts one of the most sophisticated intelligence-gathering operations in existence. Cooper nods thoughtfully. And Rudenko, the things he said about corruption in Delta Force. Being handled, Marcus assures him. Colonel Harrison is already in custody, along with his entire network. Site Echo proved its worth tonight, the prototype for a new generation of covert facilities. Zeus suddenly alerts to movement. Sarah Bennett's truck approaching. The local veterinarian had treated the dog's wounds without question. Another trusted member of the facility's support network. Morning, Sarah, Marcus calls out. Zeus is doing fine. Your patch job held up perfectly. She examines the dog professionally, but her words are pointed. Good to hear, though I suspect his injury wasn't from fighting escaped prisoners, was it? You've always been too perceptive, Marcus acknowledges, which is why you're part of the program. Every Site Echo facility needs local allies, people who can help maintain its cover. The morning continues as normal. Farmers checking their properties after the storm, police conducting routine searches for remaining escapees, life returning to its quiet rhythm. But beneath the surface, everything has changed. Will you stay? Cooper asks finally. Now that Site Echo's proven successful, surely they'll want you running more important operations. Marcus looks out over his land, the barn that conceals cutting-edge technology, the fields that hide surveillance systems, the quiet farm that helped dismantle an international criminal network. This is where I'm needed, he responds. Training. The next generation of operators, proving that these facilities can work long-term. Besides, he adds with a slight smile, Zeus would miss his daily rounds. The dog's ears prick up at his name, ever vigilant despite his injury. They both know more storms will come. More networks will need to be unraveled. More shadows will need to be dragged into the light. But for now, Marcus Steele tends to his farm, maintains his cover, and prepares for the next mission. Because some battles aren't won with violence or force, but with patience, preparation, and the wisdom to know that the quietest warrior often strikes the hardest blow. The storm has passed, but somewhere in the world, another Site Echo facility is powering up, another network is being mapped, another shadow war is beginning, and a simple farm in the middle of nowhere stands as testament to a new kind of victory. One won not through destruction, but through understanding. Zeus takes his position by the door, ever watchful, ever ready. The perfect partner for a man who turned retirement into revolution, who proved that sometimes the best way to fight darkness is not with more darkness, but with carefully prepared light. Marcus Steele may look like a farmer, but he'll always be what he truly is, a Delta Force commander who found a better way to wage war. And somewhere in the distance, thunder rolls, promising new storms, new challenges, and new opportunities to prove that Site Echo's success was just the beginning.